What's up, hardheads? This is your boy Bobby. Welcome back to my channel. And today was the season premiere of Scream. So we just got late news that the Scream TV series is new and it's coming on VH1 with a whole new cast. And we're supposed to get this a long time ago, like I stated in my last video. But you know, now it's here. We have a 3-night premiere of the TV series. It's going to be 2 hours each night. So that's expanding for 6 episodes. And tonight we got our first 2 episodes. So we got episode 1, Dead Fest Club, and episode 2, Devil's Night. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into details of the TV show because I want you guys to watch it. So I'm just going to talk about it a little bit, talk about my favorite parts in the TV series and what they've done so far, not so favorite parts, and you know, just what I liked about the show. So let's get into it. So episode 1, Dead Fest Club, starts off, you know, with a girl in her kitchen on the phone, you know, trying to, you know, make her little lunch or whatever on Halloween night. And gets a phone call and it ends up being Ghostface on the other line, asking her about, you know, what's her favorite scary movie and, you know, the typical Scream lines. So then she gets a knock at the door and you see the Ghostface mask. And then, you know, she's sitting there going back and forth. Well, not even going back and forth. She's just talking to the Ghostface mask person that's dressed up. And the Ghostface killer dude pulls up his knife and then stabs her in the chest. But come to find out, it's just one of those retractable fake knives or whatever. Because it's Halloween night after all, so it's just a kid playing a prank on her. So it kind of goes away from that scene. We don't see anything, you know, more with this young girl who is played by Paris Jackson. And this kid is just walking down the street. One kid he comes across, he gets into like a little scuffle with this kid or whatever. The bully takes the kid's candy bag, throws it over a fence, and the kid is sad. So the kid is dressed up in the Ghostface costume. He comes across his brother who's dressed like a football player, and you know they go over the fence, and they don't want to go over the fence because there's like a myth about this guy with a hook that ends up killing people that goes over to his property. So they end up going over the property, you know, to get the candy bag back. They hear the guy come out, they hide or whatever, and the kid in the Ghostface mask gets excited because he gets his candy bag back, and he's yelling to his brother like, hey, I found it or whatever, and he's doing, you know, this thing that they have with each other, talking about they got each other. And so the guy with the hook comes out his house and, you know, sees the little kid, he grabs him and stabs him in the head with his hook. And then the guy with the hook ends up being Tony Todd that plays Candyman. So that's a good homage right there because, you know, Candyman always had the little hook on, you know, his left or right. One of those, he has a hook on his hand. So it plays homage, you know, to that scene right there. But it's kind of fucked up how the kid ended up getting killed. So it goes off like that, and then it fast forward to 8 years later where we see RJ Cyler's character Dion. So come to find out, the kid that was dressed up in the football costume 8 years ago was Dion. His little brother was the kid that was killed by the Candyman dude. Dion gets into school and he starts to see, you know, the Twix bar, even though it's not called Twix, it's called Twins on his TV show. And it says trick or treat, so he's just like, all right, this is something that my brother used to do back then or whatever, so it was kind of odd. And then he sees another one in his locker that says meet me at a certain place. So he ends up coming across these other kids. He ended up getting detention because he got into a scuffle with one of these kids that was kind of prejudiced. And this is where I say kind of white privilege works at its best, because he ends up getting into a situation where, you know, he's talking to this other kid, this white kid, and, you know, he has this biracial girlfriend, and, you know, he's getting into a scuffle with him, and this kid's saying all these smart remarks out his mouth. So as they're getting into a scuffle, one of the teachers comes up. She gives Dion and the girl a detention, but doesn't give the other guy detention. And clearly they're saying that he started it and he did this and he did that, and she still decided to give them a detention. So it's kind of like, a little racial situation right there. I wasn't the only one that caught that, but obviously that's what was going on. So yeah. So Dion ends up going into detention and he meets these other kids. He meets Keke Palmer character, Kim, and she's kind of like the real sassy character. She's very smart and very, you know, into what's going on in the world right now, but she's super, super sassy and a little bit of ghetto, but that's what this character is about. That's what makes her fun, because that's, you know, I guess when you have a predominantly black cast, you're gonna have that one character that kind of has that attitude and just that overall, characteristic about him. Sucks, but it's there. And I will say Keke Palmer know how to play this character good. A lot of her characters are like this, unfortunately. But I enjoy this character in this TV show here. So yeah, you have her character Kim, you have Amir, you have Manny, you have Beth. And Beth is like Jamie Kennedy's character on screen, where she's like the horror head. She's a dark and gothic girl on here, but she's like the person that knows all about horror, and she knows the rules of horror, and she tells them like the steps and the rules about horror movies and things like that. So she's definitely like that character, and I feel like in the Scream series you have to have that character, because that's the character that may help you survive, or at least get you a step up to survival, because they know the rules of surviving a horror movie. So if you're put in that situation, that person can help you out. So Beth is a good character to have on this show. I like her so far. You have to have a dark girl in here too, because they're just a fun character overall. So Beth is cool. And you have Liv also, which is Dion's fascination, the person that he got into detention for, you might as well say. She's the biracial girl, and you could tell that she likes Dion a little bit too, and she's kind of over her boyfriend, because you see this kind of connection between them two. But Dion kind of avoids a lot of he avoids the connection between them two, because he has a lot of stuff going on, as far as all right, this person, leaving notes for me and maybe giving me calls now, and she's trying to get up in his world, but he's focused on also making it into his, well, I think he's already a part of his football team, but he's trying to get past all of the judgment that everybody's giving him, saying that he only cares about himself, and he has this like title that's branded on him, and he's trying to get away from that. So yeah, Dion runs into Ghostface multiple times in the show. There's a lot of weird decision making in the show between him and even the other characters. There's a scene in here where Ghostface is texting him saying, "Meet me here." He doesn't know it's Ghostface yet, because he's just like, all right, somebody's playing games. So he goes into the bathroom, and it's all foggy and stuff in there. He comes across Ghostface, and they get into this whole scuffle. Ghostface taser his ass. He falls to the ground, and he just knocks out. He wakes up, come to find out all the messages in his phone is deleted, so he can't show everybody that's in the detention room with him what's going on, so they all think he's crazy. Everybody's in detention. They come across this character named Shane, who's played by Tyler Posey. If you guys know Tyler posey, he was on the Teen Wolf show that was on MTV, and he played a good character on there. So he plays like this I guess drug addict character on here that sells people drugs and narcotics and things like that. So he ends up inviting everybody in the detention hall to this party that he's having, saying that it's going to be the most fun party ever. It's going to be your best $20 ever. So they end up all going to this party, and once they get into this party, everybody is wearing Ghostface costumes. So it's kind of like also a homage to Scream Part 2, where in the beginning of the film, when everybody was watching Stab, everybody was dressed in those costumes, and Omar Epps, I believe, and Jada Pinkett, they were trying to watch a movie, and it was giving away free Ghostface costumes. So it's kind of like a scene like that, where they're invited to this costume party, and everybody's wearing the same costume, so the killer could be in the midst of all of them, and they wouldn't know, because everybody's dressed the same way. So it was pretty cool how that scene turned out. But RJ Styler's character was kind of just like, all right, I'm here. I've seen this, this person try to attack me before, so now I'm in this environment, and it might happen again, and nobody won't know, because everybody's dressed the same way. So they all end up going to this party. Kim and Manny, they're like best friends on here, and she's trying to help him out, because he's like the gay guy of the group, and and he's kind of like, I'm not too sure if he's worried about his sexual orientation, but she's like his best friend. She's there to defend him. So they got their own little relationship going on, which just seems really, really tight. And you have Beth doing her own thing, just hanging around, just doing whatever. and then you have and then you have Dion walking around, trying to figure out, where this call is coming from and who's doing all of this. And he gets another call, and it ends up being a Ghostface guy again. And he's pretty much telling him, like, I could be anywhere right now because everybody's dressed the same. And he's like, I could be right next to you. I see what you're doing. So he's looking around, trying to find him, and he ends up getting slashed on the arm. And he can't tell who it is because there's so many people around dressed the same way. And the Ghostface dude's like, see, I see what you're doing, and I could do anything right now if I wanted to, but I'm not doing it right now because I want to see what your insides look like. And not what, he don't really mean literally what his insides look like, but he's telling him, like, I want you to tell everybody, about the truth about yourself. Like, you're not saying who you say you are, you're a fraud. So I want you to expose that to everybody, or, everybody's going to die. And he's just like, well, who? He's just like, everybody in your little friend group inside the detention hall. And, they call themselves the Breakfast Club because there's a bunch of them, and it's kind of like the movie from the 80s, The Breakfast Club. But they don't call themselves the Breakfast Club. They call it the DFS Club because of the whole situation that's happening here, which is pretty funny. But, I mean, for a Scream show, I guess it works. I don't know. Dion gets scared, so he goes onto the mic and tells everybody, hey, the DFS Club, I want you to meet me at this certain location. You know who you are, you know what it means. So, well, not the DFS Club, the Breakfast Club. Everybody meets at this, like, trailer or bus or whatever it is, and they're talking about it. And Dion's just like, hey, I just got slashed, something happened. I think there's a killer out here just trying to get us and things like that. And, half the people don't believe him because they're just like, you're crazy, like, what are you talking about? If there's somebody really out here to get us, like, for what for? Like, we just met each other, blah, 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 blah. So they all end up going back into the party. I think Beth is sitting there, she's on the phone, and she's getting a call from somebody. I forgot who it is. And meanwhile, Liv's boyfriend, the racist punk or whatever that got them in trouble in the beginning of the show, is listening to them to their conversation, or I think that was him pranking them on the phone. I'm not too sure. It was a little confusing, that part. But then you see the Ghostface dude, grab him, and there's a little scuffle going on, behind the scenes. And then he gets thrown over off the balcony and falls onto this, like, stake, this sharp stake at the bottom of the party. And he pretty much is, like, dead there, and everybody's screaming and, just going crazy. And, the DFS Club kind of meets up at the end and just like, all right, this stuff is real. Like, something happened. Like, this is wild. Like, what is going on? So that episode ends like that. And I will say, rating this show here, this Scream is not what I actually expected, but at the same time, it gives me a reminiscence of the first two Scream shows because of the music and the friendships between the characters and things like that. But it's a lot more different because you have a different, obviously a whole diverse cast. That's just a big difference compared to the first one. And it's also refreshing though to get the original Ghostface mask back and the original voice actor who talked for Ghostface in the movies. So that was pretty dope to have in this show. But episode 1 definitely reeled me in. It got me hooked on it a little bit. It sucks that we only get in, like 3 nights of this show, but I mean, it is what it is. So hopefully the ratings are really good, and depending on how this one ends, we will get a lot more. But episode 1 was definitely good. I enjoyed it for what it was. Again, I enjoyed the horror tropes that they were talking about in this show. I enjoyed some of the characters that kind of remind you of some of the characters from the first movie and the second movie, and just some of the homage that they paid towards those movies there. It was pretty cool to have that into the show. So yeah, after this episode here, it moves right on to the second one. So let's get into episode 2. So episode 2, Devil's Night. We got the show starting off with Keke Palmer character Kim. She's, at the Red Box getting all these movies. She's talking to this guy. I forgot the guy name. He's a comedian or whatever. I have to research him again. But he's on a lot of the Wild 'N Out shows on MTV and things like that. But she ends up talking to him. He's trying to get with her. She's just like, no. So she goes into the house, and guess what she's watching? She's watching Rob Zombie's Halloween. And I kind of got excited when I see that, because I was just like, oh, she watching Michael Myers on the screen, and you just see the movie on the screen of her watching it. So it was pretty dope to see her watching a current horror movie, and it's Halloween, because if you watch the original Scream movie, also paying homage, Kennedy's character and all the friends, when it was at that party, they was watching the original Halloween. So this is kind of like paying homage again, because Kim is sitting here watching Halloween, but more of the updated version, the remake version actually. So it's pretty cool to see how they threw that in there. Kim gets a call, and it's Ghostface again. He's talking about, talking about what's her favorite scary movie, and she's sitting there being sassy with him. But then he started to be a stalker again, and talking about like your fuzzy pink slippers, and that's when she was like, oh hell no. And she runs out the house. I don't know why, because like I understand that he was watching her and he knew what she was wearing, but why would you run out the house? Like obviously he's not in the house, because you was in the house the whole entire time, and it looked like it was a little apartment or something, and there was no other way for anybody to get in. So I don't understand how or why she would run out. But anyway, she runs out the apartment. She sees the guy on the bench that was trying to holler at her earlier. But then, his head goes back and his throat is slashed. And then when she turns around, the Ghostface dude is behind her. So he's trying to like slash at her. And then she runs and talking about white officer down, or, something along those lines, just so she can get people attention, because when people talk about white people being in danger, the cops come a lot faster to make fun of that situation. So it was interesting to see that part there. It was pretty hilarious, but that's how the second episode starts off. So Devil's Night. So this episode, I think they kind of found out a little bit more of the history between Dion's character and the situation that happened between his brother Marcus, that ended up getting killed on the very first episode the many years ago. Also in this episode, Dion has this stepbrother who's played by Tyga. I think his name is Jamal. And they kind of got this weird conflicting relationship, because you can tell that Jamal wants to be inside Dion's life, but Dion is kind of being standoffish. He doesn't really, want him there at the moment, because he's going through so much, especially since the anniversary of his brother is coming up, as well his brother's death is coming up, and that's something that plagued their family for like years. So Jamal, you can tell, is trying to somehow fit himself inside his life, but Dion is kind of being resistant about the whole situation. Jamal tries to help Dion out, because a little bit earlier he's been approached by his coach, who was played by Terrence J. That was on 106 in Park. And he was just saying, well, since such and such died, he passed away, I want you to take over his role being quarterback. And Dion's just like, no, I'm not a quarterback, I do this other position, like I'm not being a quarterback. He said, well, you kind of have no choice, I need you to do it for our team to succeed, blah 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 blah. So they end up practicing and things like that. He's being horrible at it, because I think there was a distraction in his head that Halloween is coming up. That's the anniversary of his brother's death, and he can't focus on him being a quarterback. So when he sees Jamal, his friends like, hey Dion, come out, hang with us, and Dion's just like, no, I don't want to. I got other things to worry about. I'm a new quarterback now. I have to practice for that. So Jamal actually tells his friends to go ahead. He wants to spend time with his stepbrother. So they're in the field, talking about, the whole quarterback thing. He's trying to help him out there. And he's talking to him. And he's just like, I know the death of Marcus is coming up and things like that, but I'm trying to be here. And Deanna's just like, yeah, we have a lot of years to make up, but just not right now. And Jamal's just like, okay. Like, you could just tell that he's trying to put an effort in there. So I actually feel for Tyga's character a little bit, because he's being a little bit sensitive to the situation, and I didn't expect his character to be that way. So then you got Kim talking to everybody in the Diffus Club. She's saying like, hey, I was attacked the other night, and we gotta watch our backs now. Dion was right, blah 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 blah. And Beth, was just knowing her history in the horror world and the rules and stuff. It was just kind of funny seeing them two go back and forth, because also like in episode 1, Beth was explaining the rules, and she was just saying like, in horror movies, there's the typical people. You have, the nerd, you have, the jock, you have the smart aleck, and then she was just like, and no offense to, YouTube, but you guys are black, and you know how black people always first to go in horror movies. So it was kind of like that situation here. They was discussing that, and Keke Palmer character Kim was just like, well, there's black people that's in a horror movie, and then she's going back and forth with Beth, and Beth was just like, all right, where? Name one movie, and and she's like, and don't say Get Out, and Kim was just like, yeah, I mean Get Out, I mean, and then she kind of described the situation in that movie or whatever. So it was just kind of funny to see them two go back and forth. And she was talking about Jordan Peele being a new up and coming director and blah blah blah. And it was just like this whole big just like argument that people, I feel like, in a horror community would talk about. So it was kind of funny to see them two go back and forth at it, because both of them were speaking truth. Beth was right about black people always being first to die in movies, even though I can name a couple movies where the black person actually survived at the end of a few horror movies. But Kim is actually right, because nowadays we have black horror that's coming out now, and we got Jordan Peele being one of the directors that's actually making the main characters African American. So yeah, we're starting to come up in the game a little bit, so I can see where they were both kind of correct. But Kim spent most of her time focusing on his plan because she thinks Shane is the killer. So, because she's saying that he gave everybody the mask or whatever, he does the whole drug thing, like he knows this. So she was just like, we just gotta capture him. So they end up, coming up with this whole plan inside the school. They end up getting Shane, and they're talking to him and asking him questions, and he don't know what the hell is going on. But while they have Shane, they sitting there having a discussion about not splitting up, because in horror movies when they say I'll be back, they never actually be back, like in the original Scream where they say never say I'll be back, because 9 times out of 10 you won't come back. And Keke Palmer was just like, well, whatever, like, I'll be back. So she was being her sassy self. So they end up, coming across, well, she ends up coming across Ghostface when they end up leaving and being separated to find, Dion and stuff. And, she gets into a scuffle with Ghostface or whatever. And she ends up running, and she's trapped because she's trying to get underneath this gate thing. And it's also another reference to the first Scream where Rose McGowan character was trying to get through the garage little door or whatever, and it just didn't work out for her, obviously. So it was kind of the same situation with Kim, but she didn't actually, like, she made the attempt, but then she just gave up because she knows she wasn't going to make it. So it's her face to face with Ghostface, and she's talking to him, and then you get Shane that comes from behind with the gun, and he's sitting there trembling and shaking with the damn gun, and it's just like, dude, why don't you shoot him? Like, Keke Palmer is just like, shoot him, like, what are you doing? They got the Ghostface dude on the floor because they had a little scuffle or whatever, and he's just sitting there pointing a gun at him but not shooting. He's like hesitating to shoot this character, and it was just so frustrating because it's like, dude, what the hell? So a light bulb went off in my head, because I'm just like, all right, well, maybe he's working with this guy, because in Scream movies there's always two people, it's not usually just one. So I'm thinking, like, all right, something had to happen. Like, he's doing this for a reason, because he don't actually want to shoot this person, because he's actually obviously working with this person. He's just trying to put on an act. So come to find out, he was end up just being a punk anyway, so that he didn't end up doing that. So Ghostface ended up getting up, grabbing the keys, unlocking a little gate thing, go past it, and he ends up being free. So that was the crazy part right there, and it was so frustrating and stupid, because it's just like everything that you guys just talked about, you just like disregarded. You know what I mean? Like, splitting up, you guys end up splitting up. Y'all see, I wasn't going to split up, and just, defending each other, and you come into these situations and you don't do those things. So it was so frustrating to see that. So meanwhile, while all this is going on, Beth and Amir is in the closet trying to hide from Ghostface, and they're sitting there flirting with each other. Well, Beth is flirting with Amir, because Amir, his character is not the brightest character. He says a lot of, questionable things or whatever, but that's just the way his character is. And by the way, this character Amir is actually the Notorious B.I.G.'s son, Christopher Wallace. So it's pretty cool to actually see him in this show too. He looks just like his pop. And you also got Liv, trying to put together clues, because she was trying to visit Dion, but she ends up seeing Jamal instead. So they're sitting there having a conversation, and she ends up seeing a picture of Dion, but Jamal's just like, no, that's not Dion, that's Marcus, that's, the brother. So now we have Liv thinking, all right, Marcus is still alive, he's not really dead. So she's trying to tell that to Dion. Dion was like, my brother's dead. But then he starts to slowly get into it. All these things that he's doing and saying, something that my brother would do. So he starts to go into it, and he followed Liv's theory. So they're going along thinking, all right, Marcus is still alive underneath this Ghostface costume, and he's doing all this, and he's doing this for revenge because he wants to, expose all of us. I don't know why he wanted to expose everybody else in the Dead Fest Club, because I don't really think he know them like that, and there's really no purpose for him to do that. I guess we gotta keep watching the episodes to find out why. Like, I get Dion because that situation, like, they go back to a flashback where Marcus ends up being killed, and you see Dion actually run. When you first see that situation happen on the first episode, you don't see Dion run, you just see Marcus being killed. But then they flash back to it again, you actually see you actually see Dion run while his brother is being killed, so he ended up leaving his brother being killed. So I think he has that guilt, him leaving his brother. So it does make sense for his brother to come back for revenge, but you actually see the hook going through his brother's head, or somewhere, like you see a lot of blood. So I don't understand how that could be his brother underneath there. So I have my theory who I think it is. After watching maybe the end of the first episode going on to the beginning of the second one, at first I thought it was Shane, but I was like, no, it's not Shane. My theory is, and I'm gonna go along with it, maybe I'm right into the last 2 episodes. My theory is, I think it's going to be Jamal, which is Dion's stepbrother, and I think it's probably, and the second person I think that's playing a part in this is maybe Amir. Somehow them two are in cahoots. I could be wrong, but if I am wrong, if Amir has nothing to do with it, I definitely think Jamal has something to do with it. Everybody's going around with their speculation. Towards the end of the episode, we see Shane. He's going to his apartment, and I think he see his mom or his grandmother, and she's like going to bed with these tubes in her head, and he's talking to her, and he gets a call on the phone. Ends up being a Ghostface dude or whatever. So he ends up going outside. He ends up getting into a situation with Ghostface or whatever. He sees like this ladder. So he ends up going over there, and the ladder kind of falls onto him, and then it gets in between his neck, so he can't move because he's on the floor, and the 2 parts of the ladder is, weighing his head down. So, his head is right underneath the ladder. So you see Ghostface coming down the ladder, and then Ghostface takes a needle, or I don't know, like some type of drug that's inside the needle, and he takes it and sticks it into Shane's eye. And then Shane starts to, convulse and, start shaking and things like that. And he ends up killing Shane off. And that's how that episode ends. So that episode was crazy. I didn't expect that death. I had to, turn my head just a little bit because I wasn't expecting to see a needle go into somebody's eye and them actually showing it. So that episode was crazy. But yeah, that was Devil's Night. And these was a good first 2 nights for this show. Even though I do have my problems with some of the acting a little bit. Sometimes the acting is very strong in here, and sometimes the acting is very bad on here. But it's entertaining, It's a horror series. Like, that's what makes it fun. You can't take a lot of things serious. One of the things I don't like too is that a lot of the characters are hypocritical because they talk about, we're not doing this, we're not doing that, and then they go about doing it anyway. And it's just like, you guys know y'all are in a horror movie situation. Like, y'all saying y'all following Beth Rules, but y'all still saying I'll be back, and y'all still splitting up. So it just didn't make any sense. But I guess in a horror film you kind of have to do that because it wouldn't be no sense of danger if you didn't do those things and you stick together the whole time. So you have to have characters go against those rules just a little bit for things to happen. I also want to give a shout out to Mary J. Blige. I forgot she was on the first episode. She played Dion's mom, so it was pretty cool seeing her on here. RJ Cyler, I'm so happy that he actually lead in this show. Like, he does a great job on here. I actually his character is very believable. I will say that. It's actually nice to see a young black lead on this show. especially a part of the Scream franchise. So props to RJ Cyler, you're doing a good job, dude. Keke Palmer, is always fun seeing her in these type of shows. She's always hilarious when I see her in these type of roles. Like, she was great in Scream Queens. She reminded me of that character in Scream Queens. So I love to see Keke Palmer, and I love seeing her in the show. Like, she brings the entertainment and the sass and the funniness in the show. I just love seeing the diversity in the show between different people. Like, you had the cameo with Paris Jackson in the beginning. I wanted something to happen to her, but obviously it didn't. But it was pretty cool to just still see her on here. Biggie Small's son, Christopher Wallace, was on here. You know, again, I mentioned Mary J. Blige, Tyler Posey, and you just have a lot of, you know, fresh faces that you haven't seen before. I know I haven't seen before. That's pretty cool. And they're actually not, I'm not going to say just like expendable characters, because you can tell they're building these characters to be likable. And they're doing a great job at that. Like I said, there's certain moments in the show I'm just like, oh my gosh, the acting is kind of like not too good. But again, what can you expect from a horror show? You can't, you know, I mean, you got American Horror Story, but you can't compare that to like Scream. You know, American Horror Story is a thing of its own. So yes, Scream Resurrection episode 1 and 2 was a success. I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it. I wish it was going to be longer instead of just getting these 3 nights. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about the show if you watched it tonight. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and maybe share this video. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for part 3 and 4 of Scream Resurrection. I'll see you guys later. Peace.